For example, Goldman Sachs gets over 200,000 applications every year, right? So if you think about it, if every single applicant submitted a one-page cover letter, that's over 200,000 pages that they would have to review. So when we work with students on their application materials for investment banking recruiting, typically we're working on three primary things. One, your resume. Two, your cover letter. And three, your LinkedIn profile. Okay, those are the three things that you need as the foundational items for the rest of your recruiting process. Whether it's for your networking efforts or for the applications that you're going to be submitting, you need to make sure that you have those three things in place. Right now, the resume is pretty self-explanatory. Everybody understands the importance of a resume, so I'm not going to talk about that here. What I do want to talk about is between the cover letter and the LinkedIn profile, which of those two items is actually more important, okay? And believe it or not, a lot of students will actually probably tell you that they think the cover letter is more important. In reality, the cover letter is actually the least important out of the three items, because especially if you're applying to some of the bigger banks like the bulge bracket banks, the elite boutique banks, even a lot of the middle market banks, these are banks that are typically getting anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of applications, okay, depending on which bank it is. For example, Goldman Sachs gets over 200,000 applications every year, right? So if you think about it, if every single applicant submitted a one-page cover letter, that's over 200,000 pages that they would have to review, right? And I'll just tell you, in reality, who's actually reading these cover letters? The answer is nobody, because from my experience back when I used to help out with on-campus recruiting at Morgan Stanley, when we get these applications and we're sorting them into the interview pile versus the no interview pile, we don't have time. Bankers are very, very busy. We don't have time to read these cover letters. And so we don't really care, to be honest. Like, all we're doing is we're skimming through your resume and we're making a very, very quick decision based on our first impression, right? Like, there's a statistic out there that on average, a recruiter spends 6 seconds on each resume. Okay, so we're certainly not reading through 3 to 4 paragraphs of text on why, you think you'd be a good fit for this bank. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. Okay, one, a cover letter could be useful if you have an extenuating circumstance that you have to explain. So, for example, maybe you had one semester where your grades really, really suffered. You got a 2.9 GPA, but you had a legitimate reason, like you were very, very sick, or I've even worked with a student before that had like a life-threatening illness, and then he overcame that. But then after he overcame that, all of the following semesters he had close to a 4.0. So that's something that's worth explaining, right? And so that could be actually a difference maker on your cover letter. The other thing is, if you're actually applying to a smaller bank, like a regional boutique bank where they actually don't have that many applicants, they sometimes will actually read your cover letter. Okay, so you have to look at the situation and the context and decide, like, okay, how important is this and how much time do I actually need to spend on this? What I definitely would spend a lot of time on is optimizing your LinkedIn profile, okay? Because that's essentially the digital version of your resume. You want to make sure that's fully optimized, because what's going to happen is that will actually affect your conversion rate when it comes to your networking efforts, okay? A lot of times when you reach out to bankers to ask them to network with you so that you can get that referral from the interview, bankers get a lot of these requests from students, and sometimes, since they don't know who you are, the first thing they will do is they'll actually go and look you up on LinkedIn and decide if you're someone that's worth talking to. Because if you don't seem like a good candidate or you don't look qualified, they don't have 30 minutes to spend with you, or they don't want to talk to someone that they probably aren't going to be able to help anyway. So that's why, like, it's really important for you to be putting your best foot forward when it comes to your LinkedIn profile, and then also obviously your resume, because sometimes they'll actually ask you for your resume before they agree to talk to you. So make sure those two things are in really, really good shape, and that will allow you to have a higher response rate on your networking outreach, which means you can then reach out to fewer people and still get to the same number of referrals that you're aiming for. Does that make sense? And so hopefully that helps you guys. Make sure that you're spending time on the right things. right? I see a lot of people spend a ton of time on the cover letter and barely spend any time, or they just gloss over their LinkedIn profile. That's not going to get you the best outcome. You want to spend time on the things that actually move the needle. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking for more customized advice that's tailored for your specific situation, then I invite you to book a free strategy session with our team at the link below. We'll talk to you soon.